Alexander the Great, a great leader. Nearly 2,300 years ago, there lived a powerful leader named Alexander the Great. Alexander was a king of Macedonia, which was located just north of ancient Greek territory. Alexander set out with his armies to explore and claim new lands. He used violence and force to form a great empire. Preparing to be king, Alexander was born in 356 BCE. Alexander's father, Philip too was king of Macedonia before Alexander. With the support of a powerful army, Philip kept Macedonia and most of the surrounding Greek city-states under his control. Alexander's mother, Olympias, firmly wanted her son of, to be king of Macedonia one day. However, his future wasn't certain, since his mother wasn't per Pure Macedonia, Philip could have a child with another wife who would gain the right to be throne. Alexander's strength became clear at an early age. When he was 12 years old, Philip decided not to buy a horse because it was too nervous. Alexander noticed that the horse was frightened by its own shadow. By turning the horse's head away from the shadow, he was able to calm the horse. Alexander then rode his new horse, whose name the Bucephalus, with ease. Bucephalus and Alexander would be together for life. When Alexander was growing up, his father was often away. Philip relied on special teachers to prepare his son to be king. Young men of Greece had to learn to hunt, ride horses, and fight with swords, javelins, and bows. Alexander and his friends need to learn this skill to survive in battle. Philip asked Aristotle, a very wise man, to teach Alexander science, history, and other subjects. Aristotle was respected for his intelligence and also helped Alexander ap- appreciate art and culture. As he grew older, Alexander took on more responsibility, including leading soldiers in battle. Alexander was raised to be the next king, however, in 337 BCE. Philip married a woman who was born in Macedonia. The next year, Philip was killed. Alexander's mother then had the baby and her mother killed. And soon after her wishes came true, her son becoming king. As soon as he became king, Alexander called on his father's army to support. Persia was Greece's longtime enemy and had taken Greek land in Asia Minor. Like Philip, Alexander wanted to rule Persia, and more many Greek city-states supported Alexander, but others were not sure about the young king and his grand idea. The state had the power to keep Alexander from ruling Greece and could also ruin his plans in Asia. Alexander used violence to maintain rules and silence people who opposed him. A year after becoming king, he set up for Asia Minor. When Alexander arrived in Asia Minor in 334 BCE, he threw his spear into the ground and claimed the land. Soon after Macedonia fought the Persians in a battle and Ranchus River. Both armies were well trained on horseback and on foot. The Persians, however, fell quickly to spend the power of the Macedonians. Alexander the Roman moved, and his men moved on. Next, Alexander and his army freed Greek cities along the Aegean Sea. Darius III, the king of Persia, went to fight Alexander and the Greeks in the Battle of Issus. The Persians again lost Macedonia. Darius managed to escape. Alexander traveled to south to stop Persian ships by taking control of cities along the Mediterranean Sea. Some fought back, but Macedonians' strength and skill dominated. In 332 BCE, Alexander marched south into Egypt. The Persian leader there gave Alexander control. Alexander gave Egyptians government position and permitted their religion. The Egyptians welcomed him. Alexander decided to move further to Asia, east of Asia Minor, in what is Iraq today. The final battle with the Persians took place in 331 BCE. Darius again fled the battlefield after losing to the Macedonians. Now Alexander ruled the Persian Empire. He traveled through Persia, uh, Persia, trying to find Darius. Before Alexander could find him, however, Darius was killed by a local leader. As Alexander gained control of more land and people, he started following Persian custom and asked his men to do the same. He began to demand that the Macedonians bow to him as the Persians did. Many Macedonians did not like Alexander's new ways. The Macedonian army struggled in 326 BCE in the land called India, Afghanistan and Pakistan now. As they moved further east after winning a difficult battle, Alexander continued on through India. He was badly uh, injured along the way, managed to recover. Alexander pushed his men to keep moving, even though it cost them great danger. After fighting for nearly 10 years, many of Alexander's men were tired and wanted to go home. They finally convinced him to turn around and made it to Babylon in 323 BCE. However, Alexander came down with a fever, and in June of that year Alexander the Great died, just before he turned 33. The life of Alexander the Great. Alexander's empire included parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa. His life was not just about taking control of land and ruling people. Perhaps of his early education and he learned the tradition of his new empire. But he also forced great cultures, new land. Alexander became a role model for the ruler and explorer who followed, like Alexander, he forced the culture open, indigenous people they are overtook. In 15 years in conquest, Alexander never lost a battle. He had military skills and genius that the world had never before seen. Was Alexander the Great, after all,